Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's town hall meeting. Before we begin, I'd like to make sure everyone can hear me okay, so please just type the word yes into the chat box if you can hear me. Great. Each attendee is in listen-only mode to avoid having background noises that may distract you from listening to the presentation. Throughout the presentation, a staff member will be managing the chat and question box on your Zoom control panel. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A box. After the presentation is concluded, we'll answer any submitted written questions, as well as a live Q&A session where you can ask your questions on the air. Simply use the hand raise tool to ask your question. Don't forget to join us in June as we host AMHCA's 2022 annual conference in Las Vegas, Nevada, from June 22nd through the 24th. More information, including our full schedule, registration, sponsorship opportunities, and hotel accommodations can be found at www.amhca.org/conference. Without further ado, I'll now turn it over to our President and Executive Director and Interim Executive Director and CEO, Dr. Beverly Smith.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our spring town hall meeting. We're excited that you have joined us, and you are our honored guest today, whether you are a member of AMHCA or you're joining and contemplating joining AMHCA or attending our annual conference. Again, welcome to our spring town hall meeting on behalf of our board of directors, officers, as well as members. We will today give you some brief updates in reference to AMHCA. You'll hear from me, our president-elect, regional directors, as well as director of communications and our state chapter relations coordinator. We will give you updates on the counseling compact, answer general questions and answers, and then we will close out. So again, thank you for coming and being a part of our town hall. This PowerPoint, this webinar will be available, the recording will be available on our website. Again, as Rebecca stated, I am the current president and interim CEO ED. It has been an exciting year. I am excited about this town hall. In fact, all of our town hall meetings have actually been very rewarding and beneficial, as our members have shared with us. But I want to give you a few updates so that you're aware of what's going on inside of AMHCA. We've currently launched our executive director search, so you should see it posted in various mediums. We have this year strengthened our financial portfolio, and we will be submitting recommendations to the board of directors in regards to our strategic plan. So look out for more information to be posted on our website. This year, we had an excellent work from our Multicultural and Social Justice Committee, our membership committee, as well as our council of committees and our counseling compact committee. This year, we continued to work with our partners in collaboration with them. We also explored strategic organizational leadership and partnership. But when we talk about organizations that we partner with for this year, I want to just remind you of some member benefits of our AMHCA partnerships. As you can see on the screen share, these are all the partners in which we collaborate with. And if you're a member of AMHCA, you will receive some of these benefits as well. We have a lot. We're talking about other updates and reminders as to what is AMHCA doing? How are they serving and advocating for members? Know that we advocate for you on a national level, and we know that you're doing the same advocacy work on the state and local level. We have what we call our Clinical Mental Health Counselor Declaration. So as we advocate from this standpoint of what we do in our pledge to do no harm, but to provide excellent service within our community. As we are attending and participate in national briefing, as we are advocating and going to the Hill, we do that based upon our declaration and our Hippocratic oath and our pledge. And so we hope that you will continue to utilize this declaration, share within your state and within your local chapters. Again, this is our declaration and our professional identity of who we are, what we stand for, and what we do to not only serve members, but to serve the community. This year, as in every year, we have awards in which we recognize outstanding clinicians and individuals within the community. Please do not hesitate to go to the website provided and apply early before May the 15th. You can nominate a peer, nominate yourself, as well as an AMHCA chapter for an award. Again, please go to the link, or if you visit our website, you can go to our website and click, and you will see the awards applications available for you. This is a good time, again, to recognize individuals who have just done stellar work within the community. We also recognize a legislator as well, who's done stellar work in supporting and advocating for counselors, clinical counselors, and advancing our mission as well as our vision. So please do not forget to go and apply. The deadline is May the 15th. And I'm emphasizing it and saying it over and over because I really want you to apply. Now, we talk about advocacy and what we are doing on a national level. I want to remind you of things that you already know and just highlight a few things that we are continuing to do. The Mental Health Access Improvement Act is something that AMHCA supports. And in fact, we are part of a coalition called Medicare Mental Health Workforce Coalition. And this coalition is working diligently to ensure, to advance that licensed professional counselors, as well as licensed marriage and family therapists, are authorized providers for Medicare. And know that I have participated in briefings. We'll continue to do that. We'll continue to work with the coalition so that we can be LPCs, licensed mental health providers, can be authorized providers for Medicare. I provided on the screen for you a brief flyer that talks about the lack of support, or the lack of clinical support for beneficiaries of Medicare. LPCs, licensed mental health counselors, can alleviate that burden on the current workforce. And so we will continue to advocate, we will continue to use our voice on a national level to advance this particular bill, okay? And I want you to know that we are, again, not working in isolation. As you can see on the flyer, there are several other organizations that are working in collaboration with us. We've hosted grassroots efforts and we'll continue to do that. But know that we are extremely close in getting authorized for this bill. We're closer than ever before. We are still working hard. And so if you have any additional questions, feel free to let us know. Feel free to email us and we'll be happy to go into depth, answer more questions for you. Just know we will continue the advocacy. We want to highlight for you 988. On July the 16th, 2022, this particular number should go live across the country. We are aware that in some aspects of the country already, they're already using 988. But this is a number that will be available for individuals who need mental health care support. They can utilize 988 instead of utilizing 911. And you will hear more about these advocacy efforts as well as we promote this within our social media and throughout AMHCA. We have been in a pandemic, as you already know. And so because of that, we are participating as a national organization, have been participating, and sound the alarm for kids. We understand at this point that our youth, children, teens have been impacted by COVID-19. And so we are joining efforts with other organizations in bringing more awareness to the need for mental health care for our kids, teen, and youth. And Sound the Alarm for Kids is one of those national initiatives. And so you see we are a partner and we will continue to give you updates, but know that we've joined the efforts to provide increased mental health care services for our kids. So we do not only just advocate for our seniors, middle-class individuals, or those are middle-aged individuals, but we also advocate for our kids as well as our youth. Another aspect of AMHCA that I want to highlight for you is our credentialing department. We have outstanding credentials in AMHCA. As you can see, there are some of them are listed on the screen. So take your pick, apply, and become credentialed with AMHCA. There are a list of specialist certifications that you see, but as well as the bottom, you will see the diplomat in advanced clinical mental health counseling practice, as well as the fellow in clinical mental health counseling, education, and research. So we provide credentialing. So go ahead, again, take your pick and apply. When you go to our website, which we will provide for you again at the end, these particular applications are listed on our website, and we provide all of the requirements in which you need to submit in order to be considered. But these are excellent credentials, okay? So please apply. And as the credentials are excellent, you can apply. We provide various trainings and webinars so that you can apply for these credentials. As such, we're doing the same at our annual conference. At this time, I want to turn it over to our president-elect and the chair of our annual conference, Dr. Frederick Dombrowski.
Thank you so much, Dr. Smith. I cannot say enough good things, and there's so many things to cover during our time together, so please forgive me for being rather quick. But I just want to say on behalf of all of us members, Dr. Smith, we sincerely appreciate all the work that you've done wearing several hats these past couple months. The bad news is I am going to ask you to advance the slides for me because I don't have the ability to do that. So all right, thank you so much. Would you just mind going to the next slide? So we are very excited about the conference coming up. It took a couple years for us to be able to meet face to face, and we were still linked with Las Vegas for our conference. So we were actually scheduled to do this back in 2020. Obviously, with the pandemic, it got pushed back, but they're still honoring our payments and our investments. So we're really excited about having the opportunity to connect with everyone face to face this year. We've seen growth in our sponsors, specifically our silver and bronze sponsors, as well as we have excellent platinum sponsors as well. Thus far, the data on our attendance and for people who have signed up has been extremely positive. When we compare to previous years, we've had more people signed up at this time than in the past several years. We have several awesome keynotes. So we have Dr. Shannon Hodges, who will be our keynote on Thursday. He's a mental health, Dr. Shannon Hodges, mental health clinician out of New York. He has tons of books. He will be specifically talking about ways to enhance the counseling field. He's written a book specifically about careers for counselors. He is just doing tons of awesome work. I think he's going to be a great fit. Go to the next slide. And we have Dr. Eric Strom. He is an attorney and licensed mental health counselor out of Washington. As an attorney, he provides legal counsel, consultation, and guidance to mental health professionals. He has a ton of experience specifically with telehealth and also working with marginalized populations. So when we had an opportunity to connect with him, we're also very excited to have him. Now, we have multiple tracks specifically at our conference. So there are flavors for everyone. So we're aware that certain states, you might need some more education and training in certain areas. For me in Connecticut, we have to have ongoing training for ethics, as well as working with individuals who are in military service. Also, if you're an addictions counselor, the addictions track is there. We also have tons of pre-conference workshops coming up on June 22nd. As opposed to listing them all, like this is just a quick list, but there's tons more that are available. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. Now, we are working our absolute hardest to make sure that although we're still in a pandemic, we want to make sure we're protecting people, although we are face to face. So we've taken steps to protect people through a greener approach, whereas previous conferences, we'd be handing out paper slips. Now we're using software through our phones to be able to download all the information, to be able to connect with each other via the Socio app. The Link Hotel, where the conference is happening, has been extremely flexible with us. I don't know how many more rooms we have left, so if you haven't gotten in yet, please be sure to do so. And it's a wonderful opportunity to work together. Thank you so much, Dr. Smith, and thank you everyone for all the wonderful work that you're doing.
This time, I want to introduce to you Karen Langer. She is our Western Regional Director, and she has done just absolutely a phenomenal job, and I have just thoroughly enjoyed working with her. Karen.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. I just want to talk for a couple of minutes about The general role of a regional director, we're basically the connection to AMHCA. So you might look at us as the connective tissue. The chapters are really good about being self-sufficient in so many ways, but often they don't have a voice on the national level. And for those of us out in the West, we sometimes feel like we're quite a bit removed from what's going on, on the national scene. So a regional director is that person who can connect you to the national voice, to the national organization. The other roles that a region director can play are, helping you get connected to the right person. When something comes up and you're not sure who to get connected to, the region director has that pipeline. I've also been an ear just to listen, because sometimes individual boards, chapters will have some conflict. A region director is a great place to go just to listen, kind of help you get some perspective. So that's been something that has happened regularly with a number of chapters. It's also our job to help connect you to other states. So when I first got involved with AMHCA, it was as a state leader. And another state leader, Tom Farrell, another former AMHCA president, had some questions about what some stuff that was going on in Montana. And as a state that was connected to Montana by close location, he was able to reach out to me, and we had good talks about, well, what's going on in your state? How did your state handle this? And it was around the ability to diagnose. So really big issues. And then he was able to use what was going on in our state to help in his state. I've got to know a lot of state leaders that way. Some of the other things that the region director is responsible for is helping with chapter development. And just recently, we have a new chapter in Colorado out here in the West. And that, it takes a while, but as the region director, we were able to Whitney and I particularly were able to get with the interested parties in that state and help them develop what they needed to do. And so that's where, again, it's that connectivity. And so region directors have a lot of responsibility, but can also be a really good source of support and help. So just real quickly, I don't want to spend too much time, but generally your region directors are pretty open and available to you. And all it takes is a phone call, an email, and most of us are really willing to connect. I've got great relationships with state, what I would call state leaders in states where we don't have chapters, and eventually we will. They have some interest, and we'll just keep them interested until we have more people and we can move forward. So anyway, just wanted to give a brief update about region directors and say thank you to those of you who continue to reach out to your region directors.
Thank you, Karen, again, for all that you do. Again, as you heard, we've charted a new chapter, and thank you, Karen and Whitney, for all that you've done and did to get that chapter charted. We actually had someone from Colorado who has led our leadership training, our Leadership Institute, and the second webinar was today, and the final one is coming up in a couple of weeks. So again, just thank you, Karen, for your leadership and for being the regional director and for charting Colorado. Thank you so much. I want to introduce to you Dr. Aaron Norton. He's our Southern Regional Director. And if you know Aaron, he is very busy, but he's very knowledgeable. So I introduce you and Aaron, Dr. Aaron Norton.
Hey, everyone. It's awesome to be with you all again today. I guess the first thing I wanted to talk about is the exciting news about the Counseling Compact, which of course, a lot of you have been following. The Counseling Compact allows every state that becomes a part of the compact to be able to apply for a multi-state license, which would enable you to practice in any other state that's a part of the compact, provided that you've obtained the multi-state license, and whether through telehealth or in person. And the compact needs 10 states to get started. And as of today, we have 8 of those 10 states. And 4 of those states, or actually, yeah, 5 of those states are in the southeastern region. We have West Virginia. And so many thanks to the West Virginia Licensed Professional Counselors Association. And of course, we have LPCA Georgia, which was one of the first 2 states to actually a founding state for the compact. And we also have Alabama. So thank you to the Alabama Mental Health Counselors Association, and Mississippi. And now we've added Florida. The Florida Mental Health Counselors Association has been advocating very heavily for our compact bill in Florida. So we are just 2 states away from having enough states for the compact to get started. And there's pending legislation in another, I think 14 additional states have pending legislation right now. So the other states from outside the southeastern region are Maine, Maryland, and Utah. So we have Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Maine, Maryland, Mississippi, Utah, and West Virginia at this point have passed legislation to be a part of that compact. Licensure portability has been a big issue for us as a profession, as you know, and especially in an era with increasing telehealth, where you might have a client who's on the road traveling, a college student who goes back and forth between living on campus and being at home. So we're very hopeful about this counseling compact. Also, in the US Virgin Islands, we're trying to form a chapter there right now. AMHCA and other organizations, including our Georgia chapter, have been very active in trying to protect the scope of practice of our licensed counselors in the Virgin Islands, where the Psychological Association in the Virgin Islands have tried to block some legislation that would clarify the scope of practice of counselors. They're particularly concerned about the ability of counselors to be able to administer and interpret psychological tests. They wrote in a letter to legislators that typically testing is not something that counselors are trained to do. And of course, that's not true. We've been sharing with them some information about CACREP standards and about how counselors have always been psychometricians and how testing is within our scope of practice, and doing some heavy advocacy work for the Virgin Islands. So we're hopeful that that work will be fruitful and productive, and we'll be able to protect the scope of practice of counselors in the Virgin Islands. Our North Virginia chapter has really stepped up to the plate because they're a regional chapter of AMHCA that just covers the northern part of the state of Virginia. But there's a vacuum, or there was a vacuum in Virginia, because there was no statewide chapter, which means it's pretty hard for there to be advocacy on the state level in Virginia, which ironically is the first state in the country to have gotten a license for counselors. So they stepped up to the plate and they decided to apply to become the statewide chapter, the presence of AMHCA in the state of Virginia, and were approved to do so by the AMHCA board. And so many thanks to the Northern Virginia chapter for your service to the profession, and we hope to continue hearing about exciting developments as that regional chapter spans out and becomes a statewide chapter. Our North Carolina chapter, I've been having some talks with them. They've been doing a good job of doing some restructuring, and they're also planning for their annual conference. And our South Carolina chapter, I'll be doing a No Surprises Act webinar with their membership on April 26th, and an emotional support animal letter training for the Louisiana Mental Health Counselors Association on May 7th. Our West Virginia chapter has an annual conference from April 21st to April 22nd. I will be there. I went last year to the West Virginia conference. I thought they did a phenomenal job of creating a hybrid conference where you can have both in-person attendees and online attendees. They did a wonderful job with it. So I'm very excited to be visiting West Virginia again soon. And our Georgia chapter has their annual conference from May 3rd to May 6th. Hopefully some of you are in Georgia, or maybe you just want to hang out and visit Georgia and attend their conference, which I think is also going to be a hybrid conference, in person and online attendance. I think that's about all I have for the Southern region right now. The Southern region's active, and I'm really impressed with some of the things that our chapter leaders have been doing throughout the Southeast.
Thank you, Dr. Aaron Norton. He said he believes they're active in the Southern region. They are over 110% active in the Southern region. So thank you, Dr. Norton, for your leadership in the Southern region and for all that you do. Dr. Norton has done No Surprises Act training for AMHCA on a national level, and he will be doing the National Forensic Evaluators training for AMHCA as well. So look out for that information and upcoming events. Dr. Norton, know that you are appreciated. I want to introduce to you now Ms. Whitney Meinhofer. She is our Director of Communications and State Chapter Relations person. I enjoy working with her. She's just an extremely hard worker. Ms. Whitney.
Hi, all. I just wanted to say happy Friday and good afternoon. I just wanted to let everyone aware of a few upcoming events that you can keep your eye out for that AMHCA has going on. Up next week is our Closing the Medicare Coverage Gap for Counselors and MFTs, an advocacy primer. This one is special. It is featuring our former CEO, Joel Miller, as well as our coalition partners from AMHCA and our coalition partner, David Connolly, who is a legislative lobbyist. So that's a good webinar for anybody who would like to get a primer on what we are doing for Medicare and how to get involved with that. Also, coming off of that, look for more information about an advocacy drive that we'll be doing later on this month, an advocacy push to Congress for Medicare coverage. So that will help kick off our advocacy push for the rest of this month. We also have upcoming our Neuroscience Symposium, which is chock full of a bunch of neuroscience heavy hitters. So make sure you check that out on our website. It's a full several hours full of just some really great neuroscience content. Our partner, the Telemental Health Institute, Ray Barrett, he is giving us a webinar on the basics to advanced telemental health and telesupervision competencies later on this month. Next month, we will be finishing up our spring leadership series. And then it is time for the conference. I don't need to go any more on about our conference, but Las Vegas is going to be a lot of fun, and it is going to be great to see a lot of faces. Next month is May, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we will be sending out some information, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, about how AMHCA is going to be pushing our own theme this year, and we're going to be sending out some tools and marketing kits to help you as clinicians, as well as state chapters, to push for Mental Health Awareness Month in May. I also wanted to mention, thank you to Karen and Aaron for helping to get Virginia and Colorado chartered this year. There are a lot of states doing a lot of great things. Aaron mentioned a couple of events that he's going to be going to, and a couple of events in the Southern region. There's also some chapters have listed their events on our website as well. So if you are not in the Southeast region, there might be another event listed on our website that you might be interested in attending. So make sure you check out our website for any more information about other state chapter events that we're promoting. If you need anything from me, chapter-wise, AMHCA-wise, or anything like that, please always know that I'm available. Feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Whitney. Again, thanks for all of your hard work, and thanks for sharing the information. We want to move on now and spend some time in talking about the Counseling Compact. As you heard Dr. Norton share earlier, the Counseling Compact, once we have 10 states in the Counseling Compact, 10 states who have enacted the Counseling Compact within their states. Once they've enacted by 10, individuals of that state, they can then become or apply for licensures in those states through the compact. But we want to talk more about the compact and provide you with tools and resources and individuals who can give you more information. We have individuals who are part of AMHCA, but they have been instrumental in advancing the counseling compact in their state. And so we want an opportunity to just talk with you, allow them to talk with you about the counseling compact. But prior to doing that, just want to share with you an available resource. Dan Loxton, he's with the Council of State Governments. And this is the individual who has been coordinating the counseling compact and pulling it all together. So he is available. And so this is the slide that we used in our last town hall. And I wanted just to share this slide with you again, so that you know that Dan Loxton is available. There's contact information and the website that has been provided for you. But the Council of State Governments, they're available to talk with you, to talk with legislators, staff members, committee members, and other individuals to help you advance the counseling compact within your state. They will explain the counseling compact, they'll get on a webinar, they'll call you, they'll email you, reply back to you, and do whatever it takes in order to advance the counseling compact. So many thanks to Mr. Dan Loxton for helping the states and working with AMHCA in advancing the counseling compact. I want to introduce to you Dr. Jerry Stevens. She's in Maine, and she's going to talk with you about her efforts and how they got the Maine Counseling Compact enacted. Dr. Stevens.
Hi there, thank you. Actually, I'm in Utah, but I'm from Maine, and I'm going back to Maine in a couple of days. So I wanted to just take a few minutes to talk about how we actually got this moving. We spent a lot of time learning as much as we could about the Counseling Compact. And if you refer back to the slide before, and you don't need to go there, but Dan had said, do not contact the public mailbox. We had originally gone to the public mailbox trying to get information, didn't hear from Dan for a while, and then finally found a way to get directly to him. Once that happened, it started to happen fast. We spent a lot of time talking with Utah, with Georgia, with AMHCA, having everybody just, trying to learn as much as we could. What are the benefits of this counseling compact? Who's involved? How do we do this? How do we get it rolling? And so, it was really confusing and complex. And once we finally figured out what it was, and we educated our local chapter of AMHCA, the Maine Mental Health Counselors Association, we found a legislator who was willing to help us move it forward. So then she got in touch with Dan, and together they wrote our bill, because the bill's very specific, and we didn't really have to do a lot of work, because the counseling compact, they already have all the language that needs to be done. And so we were able to take that language and then move it forward. Maine has an interesting 2-session legislation. The first session, all the bills that are entered get heard. In the second session, that's the emergency session, only about a quarter of the bills get heard. And we happened to submit it during the second session. So we had to somehow make sure that the council that was hearing it saw this as an emergency, and they did. And so it passed the House, it passed the Senate. We didn't have anybody go against it, but we did have our licensing board say that it was putting them in a compromising situation. They would have to change some of the rules, that they didn't have the workforce to be able to support us. And so they did give a little bit of a twist on how reasons why it couldn't work. And Dan, again, came to our rescue and showed that some of the information that they had was inaccurate. And the committee heard us. And so it moved forward. Then we took another little turn where it moved forward with a fiscal note, which always throws us into a loop. And we were able to, and our legislator was able to show that the fiscal note was just an arbitrary number, and it really didn't put a burden on the state. And with that, it passed again. And so then our governor signed it. We could not have done this without our colleagues from of other professions as well. We use social media to help promote it. We educated, once we became educated, we educated everybody we could, and really used our Facebook psychotherapy pages. Then I became part of a collaborative effort on telehealth and got them involved. And it was social workers, psychologists, and counselors. And then when it came to testimony, we really searched out for the key people. We got hospitals, agencies, and again, our local chapter of NASW. And they came out really strong in support of this bill, and as well as a psychologist. And so it became a huge collaborative effort. And it was, I think it's a wonderful healing tool, as well as an opportunity for us to all be working together collaboratively in the future. So anyway, I'm happy to be of support for any state that does want to look at moving it forward. I saw that there were a couple chats in there wondering if your states were involved. If you look on the map that will be presented later, you can see if it is. If it's not, feel free to contact me directly, and I'd be happy to work with you.
Thank you, Dr. Stevens. Thank you for all the work that you have done and continue to do in Maine. You know, I will tell you all, if it was not for Jerry, I'm not sure this compact would have passed in Maine. She truly had boots on the ground. Yes, she worked with other organizations. Yes, she collaborated. And that's what we do for the benefit of the entire profession. So thank you for your work. She's working hard, and she's a world traveler, if you all didn't know. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to introduce to you Dr. Gray Otis. He is in Utah, and we probably will classify him as a world traveler as well. Dr. Gray Otis is a member of AMHCA Board of Directors, but he is also a member, like Dr. Jerry, of our Counseling Compact Committee. So I want Dr. Otis Gray to talk with you about what they did in Utah to help get the Counseling Compact enacted. Dr. Otis Gray. I'm looking for him. I know he was on.
Let me get my mic on. There we go. And
Yep.
Start the video. So glad to be with you all. Good morning. I'm from Utah, but I'm currently in Hawaii. So Jerry's in Utah and she's not from Utah, and I'm from Utah and I'm not there either. But glad to be with you. It's about 8:30 in the morning out here looking at the Pacific Ocean today. Just wanted to tell you a little bit about our experience, and I would say it highlighted what Jerry's experience has been in Maine. And I've been watching the chats. We are really excited. If I'm reading the chats correctly, it sounds like Kentucky became the 9th state just with the governor signing the legislation. And so we're one state closer. It's getting pretty exciting right now. We did want to let you know that it was very important for us to keep the members of our state chapter informed. And we also have a very strong, close working relationships with the other mental health professionals in our state. And we kept them informed and got them on board with us right from the beginning. We developed a number of very specific talking points, really focused on the different stakeholders. But the primary stakeholders here is probably the legislators. And we really wanted to make sure that we emphasized that this is about about greater access to mental health services, and that was the real focus. We also emphasized the fact that this does not change Utah State's sovereignty over licensing of mental health professions. And so that was a concern that was addressed. And there was some minor opposition, but really once we got the other mental health professionals on board, our state licensing board on board, it went forward very successfully. And I said, as we've worked with the leaders of other professional associations, the board members, And then we actually had some interface with state councils and the governor's office. The key thing was to identify those key legislators in both the Senate and the House in Utah and get them on board as bill sponsors. Once that happened, we felt fairly confident that things were going forward. When I said number 6, when the timing is right, hold off until you're ready to go, and it's going to be heard in committee, and then galvanize the members to contact their representatives. And of course, it's important for those committee hearings where a lot of the state legislature business takes place to show up and to stay fully engaged until the bill was passed. And I got to say that it doesn't count. It can pass, but it doesn't count until it's signed by the governor. I would just say the great resource is counselingcompact.org. Counselingcompact.org is Dan Logston's webpage. You can't go wrong with checking in on that. I'm sure they're going to be upgrading that map here pretty quick. I would just say, please be aware that this is something that's just been tremendous for our state here in Utah by virtue of the fact that the Counseling Compact has brought greater recognition and greater credibility to the counseling profession. So it's been exciting. It's been fun. It's been some work, but it was all doable. So we're really excited about how this is moving forward, not only for Utah, but for the other states. And we hope to get some other Western states engaged, because right now we're the first one in the West. But thanks so much. And if I can be of support to any of you, don't hesitate to contact me.
Thank you so much for everything that you've done in Utah. You are truly a legend in AMHCA and in the counseling profession. So thank you for your support and just being instrumental in helping the Counseling Compact Committee for AMHCA, but also in Utah and across the country to be enacted. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And so as Dr. Aaron mentioned earlier, and you've heard a few presenters talk about the Counseling Compact and those states that have been enacted, as you can see in the light blue, those that are pending. And as we hear and saw in the chat, they're saying that Kentucky has enacted the compact as well. But as you know, we will update this slide and we will update the information on social media. We had some inquiries in reference to Illinois or Ohio. So I did reach out to the Counseling Compact Coordinator Director, if you will, Dan Loxton, and he is checking on those 2 states just to get a status. So for those who reached out and asked about Ohio and Illinois, we are contacting those states just to get an update. And as soon as we do, we'll post an update for those members and individuals who want to know. But again, this is kind of a map just to show you the states that have enacted and those that are pending as we continue to move forward. Now, if we have 9 at this point, there's only one more state that we need. And then we're going to celebrate across the country, because this indeed will be a milestone. Again, thank you for all of those who have helped. And thank you, Dr. Jerry and Dr. Gray Otis, for your help with the Counseling Compact. We provided for you some websites and links on our website and also on this slide that you can go to in order to enact the Counseling Compact. Now, we're not saying once we get 10, we have to stop. We will continue to support states. We will continue to support organizations to enact the Counseling Compact in their state. And so, again, the websites have been provided, and AMHCA will continue to lend its voice to enacting the Counseling Compact. In Georgia, this is just a quote of support from the current president. And she simply says, the compact is not only imperative to sustainability of the counseling professionals, but more importantly, to sustainable access to therapy for thousands of people. So continue to work, continue to advocate for the Counseling Compact, okay? We have also another voice coming out of Florida, the president of the Florida Mental Health Counselors Association. She says the Florida Mental Health Counselors Association, FMCA, is excited to announce that they also passed the Counseling Compact. And so she simply says that she has enjoyed working with those in Florida as well as AMHCA and FMCA. and she's excited that her colleagues all came together to make the passing of this legislation possible. It is a huge victory for licensed mental health counselors in the state of Florida. And so at this time, we want to answer any general questions that you may have. And so we have a host of people who've presented today. So between myself, Dr. Fred Dombrowski, Ms. Karen Langer, Dr. Erin Norton, Dr. Gray Otis, and Dr. Jerry Stevens, and Ms. Whitney Meinhofer, we should be able to answer your questions. And so I'm going to ask Rebecca, she introduced and opened up our webinar to facilitate the question portion at this time for us if they have not been answered in the chat.
Thank you so much. It looks like we have had some come through in the Q&A box that several of us have been answering as they've been coming in, but it does look like we do have James Bray who has their hand raised. James, give us just 1 second and we can put you on the air to ask your question.
I'm going to ask the other panelists if you want to show your camera at this time, please feel free to do so if you are helping to facilitate answer some of the questions. Thank you, Dr. Norton, Dr. Gray, Dr. Jerry.
All right,
Hello.
James, you are, there we go.
I'm on. Yes. Hi, my name is James Bray. I'm a counseling student currently in the state of Florida. I was just wondering the impact that the compact had on any type of supervised hours for state licensure or KCREP accreditation. Is there anything going to be new that results as from the compact?
Great question. And I know Erin will chime in and others. No, the compact will not change any requirements as far as what's required for you in your state. Okay. It will not do that.
Yeah, the compact at the Counseling Compact website, there's a bunch of toolkits that you can click on. And one of them does specify the requirements for a state to become a part of the compact. In those requirements, there is a requirement that states require their licensees to have a 60 semester hour or 90 quarter hour master's degree in counseling with graduate coursework in several areas, but it does not stipulate that it has to be a KCREP accredited degree. Those same requirements require states to require licensees to complete a supervised postgraduate professional experience defined by the commission, but it doesn't specify like how long it has to be or how many hours or anything along those lines. So the now 9 states who have joined the compact already met those requirements, or they wouldn't have been included on the map for the Counseling Compact.
Right. Thank you very much.
And I'd just like to reemphasize the Counseling Compact really applies to professionals who are fully licensed mental health counselors. So states retain sovereignty over licensing and all of the requirements up to postgraduate, associate licensing, and then all the way through to final full licensure. Then the compact does provide the state to allow for portability and endorsement by licensure, but only for those who are fully licensed.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, James. And again, if anybody else has any questions you'd like to have answered live on the air, or to ask live on the air, excuse me, please feel free to use the hand raise tool. You can see it at the bottom on the toolbar, and we can unmute you.
While we're waiting for questions to come in, Rebecca, I did want to let everybody know that I went ahead and pasted in the chat box the link that I was just reading from that shows the requirements for states to join the compact.
Thank you, Erin. Are there any additional questions, Rebecca? Or have we addressed them in the presentation and have you answered them along the way?
It looks like so far what's coming in the Q&A box, we've been answering. One thing that I was going to go ahead and put live on the air, though, because there were a couple questions about this from a few different individuals. I know that a few people were wondering if we were going to be able to have a hybrid environment at the conference this year. Just wanted to let everybody know that unfortunately, just due to very extensive AV costs, that we are not able to make a hybrid learning environment this year. But that being said, this is going to definitely be a main point of consideration as we choose our hotel site locations in the future. So now going forward, that we'll be heavily scrutinizing all of the AV menus and everything to make sure that this is something that we can continue to bring you in the future. I know that the online learning has been very helpful for everybody the past couple of years, and we really, really, really wanted to make that work this year. And so we're just as disappointed as you all are that we can't make that happen this year, but should be able to with everything going forward.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any additional questions? Have we covered?
Looks like we have, are there any updates on Medicare?
As we mentioned earlier, we are working with the Medicare Coalition, and we are advocating, trying to get an additional sponsor for that particular bill. If I go back to a quick slide here. And so this slide will be available on our website, all the entire slide deck, but we are working to secure Medicare for LPCs, licensed mental health counselors. As I shared earlier, we are really close, this time closer than ever before. There is a briefing coming up very soon that I will be participating in, and there have been some that I've already participated in order to advocate with other organizations and presidents, CEOs for Medicare. So just know that we are working hard at this. We are diligent, and we have an upcoming briefing towards the end of this month as well.
You mind if I add something to that, Beverly? My understanding is the major opposition to this for years and years has been the cost factor. But finally, we see that people of both parties in the House and the Senate, the federal government, are seeing that there are real costs in terms of not providing greater access to our seniors and for those people with disabilities, as well as some veterans. And so they're beginning to see that, yes, there is a cost for enacting this legislation, but there's a tremendous cost for not enacting this. And I think we're seeing some real movement in that regard to give us a greater degree of encouragement that this may well be the year.
We're hopeful. Thank you, Dr. G. We're hoping that this indeed is the year. And as most of you all know, the Medicare legislation authorized providers hasn't been changed pretty much since 1989 when it was enacted. And there is a great need. Licensed mental health professionals can definitely, as I mentioned earlier, lighten the workload. And as you see on the flyer that we have here attached to PowerPoint, that we can help. And there's 1 in 4 older adults who need our help and our services. As we're in COVID-19 or post-COVID-19, not sure how you want to look at it. But we are a great profession and have professionals who are very well trained to provide services, just as the other professionals are. So thank you. And look out for more information that we will post and share as we continue to make advances with this bill.
We've got a few more items that have come through. Just wanted to put forward a comment from Kirk McVeigh, who is also on AMHCA's ethics committee. Says that Vermont is open to passing the compact, but due to a short legislative session ending in May or June, it will probably not happen this year, but is most likely to pass next year. And then we have another question about the compact. How will the details be worked out? For example, Virginia requires CEs and renewals every year, but Maine requires CEs and renewals every 2 years. Have details like these been sorted out already?
Yeah, I think I could answer that one. On line 178 of the document that I posted earlier in the chat box, there's a specification that to be eligible for the multi-state license, a counselor has to meet any continuing competence or education requirements established by the home state. Your home state is the state you were originally licensed in. So all that the compact requires is that you continue to maintain your continuing education for your home state's requirements. It doesn't obligate you to meet continuing education requirements of other states.
Thank you, Aaron. One more question, is AMHCA working on a unified licensure name for counselors, like LMHC versus LPC, et cetera?
We have discussed that on the national level. We're continuing to discuss it, but we're also discussing it on the national level for AMHCA. We've had that discussion, but we also are having that discussion on the AASCB, which is the American Association of Counseling State Board. And so all the leaders in the country, in the nation, of the counseling associations, the presidents and CEOs, we do meet, and that is a topic of discussion. As we talk about counselor identity, it is definitely a topic of discussion that we are still having. So it is something that AMHCA's lending its voice. We are discussing it, and we are discussing it with the other organizations nationwide as well.
Thank you.
We
Looks like
might
that's all.
mention that that is really, though, a state licensing issue. And so we can have a recommendation, and we do use common terminology, but ultimately a single title ultimately winds up in each of the individual states to pass legislation to change the title. We did that here in Utah. We actually went from LPC to LCMHC, but it has to be done at the state level.
Thank you so much.
What I will share as well, we'll have Dr. Sylvia with CACREP. She will be interviewed on one of our upcoming podcasts, and she'll talk about counselor identity, and we'll touch upon some of these items as well. But like Dr. Gray Otis stated, this is something that has to happen on the state level, but on a national level, we will discuss counselor identity and those types of things as well. So thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, everyone. Looks like that's all we have in the chat and the Q&A right now. Again, if you have any questions that you want to ask on the air, please use the hand raise tool. We do have a couple more minutes just in case anybody has any last minute questions before we wrap up.
If you don't mind, I'll put in a plug for one of AMHCA's publications. Essentials of the Clinical Mental Health Counseling Profession is available at Amazon.com for a very reasonable price, but it goes through and answers many of these questions. For example, we talked about credentialing and requirements for credentialing. It's there. We posted the Clinical Mental Health Counselor Declaration. It's there. The Code of Ethics is there. The standards of practice are there. The history, the future of the profession, and many of these other issues. And we highly encourage people. It's, I think, available in hard copy as well as a online copy. It was produced by AMHCA and it's been updated already once. So that's the essentials of the Clinical Mental Health Counseling Profession, available at Amazon.com.
Thank you, Dr. Gray Otis again. Thank you all for attending our town hall. Just a quick reminder, please join us in Las Vegas, June the 22nd through the 24th for the annual conference. We thank you again for coming to our town hall. Thank you for being a member. Visit us on our website if you want to join, or if you have any questions, simply send us an email. Thank you so much for joining us for our spring town hall. And thank you to all the presenters, board of directors, for your support and your help and your presence. And a special thanks to Rebecca, as well as Whitney, for your support, your help, and presenting today. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Smith. And just wanted to say again, thank you also to Fred, Gray, Aaron, Karen, Jerry, and Whitney for their participation today as well for today's town hall. Once you leave today's presentation, you'll receive a survey, and we would appreciate it if you would complete that and provide your feedback. If you have any questions regarding today's town hall or future AMHCA presentations, please email us at education@amhca.org. Have a great afternoon and a fabulous weekend, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. If I get the presenters to stay on.